The best indication of future behavior is past behavior. Now, before I continue with that, let me say people can change. People can, and they do. But it's not just like, okay, something happened, the cops told me I couldn't do this, the court said I couldn't do this, my parole officer told me not to do this, my counselor said don't do this, so I'm not going to do this anymore. That is restriction, and that is rules. And someone who is not about those rules and those changes inside their self, they're not going to follow those rules for very long. They're going to start to break those rules. They're going to start to bend the rules and then break them. And we're starting to see a little bit of that in her. The mocking voice where she says, people say I come on here just to talk. She's starting to mock people. That's an indicator that she's frustrated and that she is resorting back to what she knows to get sympathy and attention. And one thing about that, one night she was on and she was talking about how she was depressed, and she just kept going on about, oh, I'm depressed, guys, you know. A day or two after that, maybe even the same night, Ed posted a picture of himself, which is his new motto, is to post a photo of himself and some caption. How's everybody doing, or whatever. So on this particular night, he posts a photo of himself and saying, this rainy weather sure makes me depressed. Well, are they both trying to get sympathy, depression money? You know, like, oh, poor Ed and Crystal are both so blue, so let's throw them a few stars their way so they can go out and get some orange juice and make them feel all better, you know. I know I'm just being silly, but sitting in the car with Mama waiting for something. And even if Mama was the one doing the waiting or whatever it was, waiting for somebody to come and give or somebody to come and take something, I don't know. I'm just speculating. But sitting in the car, it's a trigger that triggers past behaviors and past memories. Now, when I say that the best indication of future behavior is past behavior, yes, people can change. People can, and I know people myself, thank the good Lord, I know some people myself who changed. They gave up that way of life. They gave up the drugs. They gave up the lifestyle that was not good for them or anybody around them. But they had to work at it. They had to fight to get to where they were at. It didn't just happen like that, you know. But I didn't really come here to talk about her. I just say, when you start to see little behaviors like that, I talked about this in a video that I posted a while back. She knows her audience. She sees who's in the audience. She goes through and she looks and she sees who's on here tonight. Oh, this one is an old lady that lives alone, doesn't have any families, divorced, widowed. Their kids don't live around them. She has conversations with these people to get these details. That's what a narcissist does. It is called mirroring. Let me give an example. Without using any particular people, but I'll just give an example. Someone might message you on Facebook or some other, or get a conversation going with you. How have you been? What's been going on? What have you been up to? They will continue to lead these questions until you start to talk. Everything in my life is super fantastic. I just got this great job. I lost 20 pounds. I got my roots done. I look fantastic. I'm great. They're going to say to themselves, do I really want to spend the time trying to move on to the next step, which is grooming this person when they are up? Most of the time, a narcissist targets people that are not doing real well, that are kind of in the dumps, that are kind of dragging, that are kind of suffering a little bit. So if the next person that they contact says to them, things have just not been that great, I lost my spouse last year, year before last, whatever, or I got a divorce, or I just broke up, and I'm just down in the dumps all the time. I don't have a lot of friends. I don't get out and do much. That's their person right there. Now, I'm not saying that they won't try to work over the happy person. They'll have that person to where they are down in the dumps and sad and depressed and lonely. If they keep spending enough time around a narcissist, that's how they'll end up. But it's an easier move for them to target the person that's maybe not doing that great, because they can lend an understanding shoulder. They can lend an ear. Tell me about it. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. And I understand what you're going through, because I myself have gone through the same thing. People, I like to think of myself, I know I sound like a hillbilly, and I am. And I'm not here to say I'm smarter or more educated or whatever than anybody else, but I like to think of myself as being observant and kind of picking up clues about people. But with a narcissist, it's such a blankness to them that you don't see it. And when you do catch a red flag now and then, it's such a flash of red flag that you don't pick it up quick enough. By the time you start looking at those red flags, you're already digging that hole for yourself. So she targets these certain people. Now, she's got people in her audience that are up, happy-go-lucky people that talk about how they've overcome hardships and are doing well. She will be up. She will be talking about how great life is, and it's so much different than it used to be, guys, and I'm doing so well, and I really have come a long way. And if she has people in her audience that are kind of down in the dump, people that like to talk about their illnesses and their aches and pains and their hardships, she will become the depressed, sad, kind of down, not doing so great, having a kind of a struggle. It's called mirroring, because they become what you are. I made a video about this on my YouTube back real early on in my YouTube channel when I first started talking about this. And I said it's like you are falling in love with your own self. You think, and not necessarily falling in love with, it can be a situation like she has with these people, where they just kind of meet somebody they think is a kindred spirit, or a person that's very much like them, someone they have a lot in common with. What they're really seeing is a reflection. That's why they call it mirroring, because you're seeing a reflection of yourself. Because everything, and you don't even realize that they're doing it. You don't even realize that they just took everything you told them about yourself and mirrored it. Because it's so subtle. They come across like they're really listening and really concerned about you and about your life and whatever might be going on with you, that you feel so great to finally have somebody that you can talk openly to. And then the next thing you know, they start telling you about how hard they're having it and how they're going through the exact same thing. And you're like, well, I'm so glad we found each other. Isn't it kismet that we found each other? And then you really believe that. And you believe everything that they tell you. And even the things that you start to pick up on that you realize are not really, couldn't really possibly be. There's no possible way that you could have that much in common with somebody. By the time you start to really realize what they've done, it's probably too late. They've already played you and worked you over. You've already entered the grooming phase, where they begin, and then once they mirror you and get you thinking that you're so much like them, then they start to groom you. They start to tell you little things about yourself. Tell you little things, well, I mean, I could go on all day about this, but I didn't even really, I'm just giving some examples of how they work. And she does that with her audience. She leads her audience to believe that she's depressed, and then they will feel bad for her, and they will send her stars so it will lift her depression. Or she makes them feel like she's doing really great and that she's really happy, and so they'll send her stars to praise her and reward her. Who said Concom stopped? Whoever said Concom was on probation and was under the court's eye? Nobody I know, And maybe CMC is starting to test the waters with sticking her little toe in. How far can I stick my little toe in? They haven't tested me in a few days, or they just tested me today, so I know they're not going to test me again for 28 more days. Maybe that's her way of thinking. I don't know. I could be wrong. See what this says. Intuition is real. Vibes are real. Energy doesn't lie. Well, sometimes it does. Sometimes vibes and intuition are skewered. Just like I was talking about, sometimes you get so bogged down in the way somebody else or some situation makes you feel that you get misconstrued. You don't see the red flags, you don't pick up on the vibes. And that, I'm going to say something I'm going to admit to something. I probably talked about this on my YouTube channel way back, but I knew the guy that I was involved with, and I hate to talk about him because, like I said, he's passed away, and I said I wasn't going to continue to talk about him. But just to say an example of this, and I'll use my own story as an example. I had known him before, many, many, many years ago. I had known him just through friends and family. Like it was small town USA, you kind of meet each other, you kind of run in the same groups of people, and you kind of sometimes see each other around. I always remember having this kind of weird vibe around him. Not that he was skeevy acting, or not that he acted perverted or anything toward me. I just picked up on something that I thought was kind of weird about him, kind of just a strange feeling that I got. But then years passed, and I was in a different place in my life and in a different mindset. And when he shows up and he starts talking to me, I was in that place that I was just describing, as to where you're kind of going through a rough time. Your future's unsecure, unsure. You're not really, looking at things. You're looking for something, And that was what I was going through at the time that he shows back up, and the weird vibe. And I remembered when he started messaging me and stuff, that weird vibe that I had had about him years earlier. And I thought, well, gosh, I must have really been crazy back then, because he's a really cool, nice, wonderful, funny, quirky, just really, and he wasn't. The bad vibe, the weird vibe, the crazy vibe was the original truth, But anyway, I know I've asked how is everybody doing. I took my mom to the store this morning. Now, I follow this lady on YouTube, and she is a homesteader. She has her own turkeys and chickens and goats and cattle. She lives on this little farm, and she does her own, like, they raise their own garden and stuff. And she's just talking, and she will do demonstration videos from time to time. She did one a while back where she was showing how to make your own homemade cough syrup, in case you have someone at your home that comes down with a cold. And she was showing, she had gone into the store, and she had gone into her local Walmart and her local dollar store, and she was showing how there was almost nothing on the shelves And she was talking about children's medications like allergy medications and stuff, and how it's almost all gone. Are the trucks not running, or are we just being told that the trucks are not running? Her theory is not so much that it's a supply issue, but that people are waiting, and that maybe possibly even some of the inside people working inside the stores, or people who drive the trucks and do the stocking and the deliveries, are letting people know who are coming out, and they're like, okay, let's go. You know, it's time to go pick up these items that we need. Small independent markets and small independent family mom and pop grocery stores and stuff, many of them don't rely on, this is one reason why many of them have higher prices, because many of them do not rely on delivery trucks. They get in their car and they physically drive to these bigger stores like Target and Walmart and some of these bigger types of stores, and they buy up the products that they need, and they take it back to their store and they sell it. Now, I know myself personally 2 different store owners that do this. Of course, that's what they do. So a lot of these types of people are out buying up these products as soon as the trucks show up. And this woman was talking about, and this is a big thing around here, I'm sure it is in other communities in Ohio and Pennsylvania and some other communities too, but here in southeast Kentucky, Virginia, and Tennessee, we see a large population of the Mennonite people. And she said, if you want to know what you need to be buying, follow these people around in the grocery stores. If you're in Walmart, and these people do shop in Walmart, you see these Mennonite people in Walmart all the time. She said, follow them around. You know, don't stalk them, but just kind of like, what are they putting in their buggies? What products are they buying? Because these people are turning a profit. They're raising their own crops and gardens and raising their own animals and stuff for their own use, but they're also, you see them in flea markets. A lot of them own their own little stores, and they have their own little communities where they make baked goods and breads, and they make canned goods like jellies and jams, and so they're doing that to earn a profit for themselves so that they have money to live on, and the rest of the time they're growing their own foods and things. And we did quite a bit of that ourselves last year. We grew our own gardens. We are, this year, me and my husband was just talking about this the other day. We've decided that we're not going to fool with cabbage. We're probably not going to fool with corn. And the only way that we would fool with corn is if we decided to raise any pigs or maybe chickens and shuck the corn, to use as feed. But we haven't really gone that far yet if we're going to do that. We've talked about it, but the price of feed right now is so high, I don't know if you'd really come out to the good. But you would have your own eggs, and you wouldn't have to be buying eggs in the store. And it's getting to the point that people, I don't know, they're going to have to stop eating eggs, I guess. And look for baked goods to start really going up. Look for bakeries, your local hometown little bakeries, and if you're wanting to buy your kid a birthday cake or something, cupcakes and that type of thing, because they got to use eggs to bake cakes, and they're going to be really increasing their prices. But I was watching this one video the other night, and they were talking about food storage and foods that you can store for really long periods of time without having to really worry about it going bad if you store it properly. And some of those are, of course, dry pasta, like rice and like elbow macaroni and that type of pasta. One thing that this couple was talking about was these these big pickle jars. But they're talking about the commercial size jars, like the ones that you would buy that are down on the bottom shelf, like for a restaurant maybe would buy them, or maybe you would buy them if you have like 7 or 8 kids at the house or whatever. But the very larger jars. And she said even you could ask some of your local restaurants maybe that buy those, what do you do with your jars when you're finished with them? If you tighten the lid really well on those and you give those a really good wash and a really good cleaning and let them dry really well, you have to make sure that the inside and the lids and the rim of these are really dry. You can store pasta. You can store like macaroni, elbow macaroni, tortellini, egg noodles, spaghetti noodles, and even rice, and even dried beans. You can store in these large containers. Just make sure that you tighten the lid really well. And just toss away those original cardboard box containers that don't keep as long, or that will attract rodents, mice, and bugs and stuff. And dried beans, I have an abundance of, because I found a sale back before things got really out of hand on these bags of like navy beans, pinto beans, white beans, and I bought up a bunch. And if you don't want to take them out of the plastic bags and you want to keep them intact in the original little baggies, you can put them inside of one of these containers. And I'll tell you something else that works in that case. If you want to keep the beans or even rice or whatever in the original plastic bag, you see them at the front of the store at Walmart every year at Christmas. They're like the big tin things of popcorn. If you have those, you can clean those out real good, and you can put the bags of beans or rice down inside of those and seal the lid up on them, and those will keep for a very long time. So like canning jars are good for rice, and but you can use the plastic coffee containers or the tin, either one, to put beans and rice and stuff like that in to keep longer, and even white sugar, flour, meal, those types of things. What I do for my meal and my flour is I just buy like the plastic totes that are big enough to hold it, like a 3-pound bag of flour. I buy one big enough to fit 2 bags, and I'll put my flour, my meal in one container. Put the lid down on it, make sure it snaps, make sure you got those lids that lock or snap. It's going to keep the smell, and it's going to keep bugs, gnats, and other types of bugs out of your food. And it's going to keep the smell down a little bit to not be so attractive to rodents and stuff. Because people, I'm telling you right now, if you can afford it, and I've said this before, I said this months ago, and it's even more today. I know everybody says, live life. You got to live for today. You got to live in the moment. You got to enjoy your life. You got to get out and have fun. You got to experience stuff. Well, that's true. It's your money, it's your life. Enjoy, do whatever works best for you. You may have an abundance of money or an income that you feel really secure about. But I just watched a video on YouTube last night where they laid off close to 30,000 people from Amazon, Facebook, and Meta, and one of these other tech, Microsoft, and I don't know. But here's what people are talking about. If you follow these homesteaders and you follow these preppers, and you follow people who are watching the economy and watching what's happening, what they're talking about is right now, these people that were in these good jobs and making this, good income, good secure income that they felt secure about are starting to get laid off. They're going to have to tighten their budgets. And what they're predicting is that people are going to start rushing the stores to buy up, because what they're doing is they're creating this supply problem, or they're telling us that that's part of the problem. If Amazon has laid 10,000 people off, people are going to be like, oh my God, when am I going to get my stuff, So they're going to start running into the stores to buy stuff up that they might normally order online. Everybody's entitled to do what they want to with money. My husband tells me all the time that I'm too tight and that I need to just spend a little bit and not worry so much about the future and what's coming, but I can't help myself. I'm a worrywart. I think ahead. I worry about what might happen before it happens, and sometimes it never happens, but that's just the way it is. Arkansas, there's this one store in my town I never go into because it's always too expensive. And last weekend they had some really good deals, and I ended up going in there, and I spent about $30, and I came out of there. So they're starting to see that they're not getting the customers, so they're starting to offer some sales. I ended up getting coffee, and what else did I get? I got oranges, were on sale real cheap. But where I live, in my town, in my little neighborhood, in my little corner of the world, we're so far removed. We don't have a Sam's Club. We don't have a Target. We don't have anything like that. We've got Walmart, and it's 25, 30 miles away from us. So even going to Walmart is a trip, I did go into Walmart the other day, and I got some milk, because it's only $3 a gallon in my Walmart. Something my husband likes to eat is the cans of fruit cocktail. And I used to get those for like 98 cents at Walmart. And they're like, right now they're like $1.58. But that's still $1 cheaper than they are in the other stores. Because every other store that I go into, they're $2 a can. For a regular size can of fruit cocktail. And eggs, I don't even want to get started on eggs and meat. I was listening to this guy in front of me in the dollar store line today, and he was talking about going into this one store, and he said, it's not even a matter of not being able to afford it. He said, it's a matter of not even being able to find it. He said, I went into this one store, and he said they had like 4 little small packs of pork chops. He said, you would have had to about 2 packs just to make a meal for 2 or 3 people. And that's true. Look at your hamburger meat the next time you go into the grocery store. Look at these little tiny packs of hamburger meat. If you've got more than 2 kids, or even if it's you, your husband, or even if you're single and it's you, and even if it's just you by yourself, I was telling my husband this the other day. I used to make like a kettle, a big pot of homemade chili. He would eat a bowl, I would eat a bowl. We would both go back for seconds, and we would still have enough the next day for leftovers, And now we're lucky if we even have leftovers. But this is just something that's been on my mind quite a bit here lately, and I know all of you, I know there's probably some that will hear this this has not even occurred to you all, that this could become a problem. Especially younger people, and I don't mean to judge unfairly, but when you're younger, you don't, even when prices are higher, you kind of just tend to roll with it. Well, us old people can remember when a loaf of bread was 88 cents. Heck, we can remember going and buying eggs for 92 cents a dozen. And now they're like 4 something a dozen. You know, I can remember, I know this is crazy. I remember when I first got cable. I was like 18 years old, had moved into my first place, and I just had got married. And we got cable, had like 7 or 8 channels, and it was like $10 and something a month. Can you even think about? Heck, I've not paid less than $130 in the last 5 years for cable. That's something that I'm getting ready to have to really make a big decision about, because I'm on this, what's it called, this promotion that they gave me a little over a year ago, and that's getting ready to come to an end at the 1st of March. And my cable bill is going to jump up about $40 a month, and I'm just not going to be able to afford it. So I'm really considering just completely taking cable out. Keep my internet. But see, here's the way that they'll get you, and this is what they'll try to do to me, or they will probably do it to me, is they'll tell me you're better off keeping both, because the price is going to be higher if you drop your cable and just keep internet. Well, of course, I mean, if the cable was going to be the same, if the internet was going to be the same as the cable, without cable, of course I wouldn't, drop the cable if I'm going to be paying the same price for just internet. But you can't let them trick you into that. You have to just keep asking to speak to one more person higher than them. And I just pretty much told this guy on the phone last year, I said, I just can't afford it anymore. I said, I can't. I said, I have no other choice but to drop it because I can't afford it. I said, it's not a matter of being mad at you all or not wanting the cable, not wanting those channels, but I said, I just cannot pay that price. I can't do it. I don't have the money, and I'm not going to commit to paying for something that I know I can't. And he just said, well, I understand. Let me offer you a promotion. And he put me on this reduced amount, but it was only good for 1 year. And at the 1st of March, that ends. And unless they offer me another one, I'll be, looking at dumping my cable. But there are a few local channels that I watch. Sometimes we like to watch the football games as they're happening. We don't want to have to wait until they've already played and then go and try to find them on YouTube or whatever. But sometimes you have to do that, You got to make change where you can, and you've got to save where you can. And if it's a matter of being able to buy food, being able to afford to buy the basic necessities that you have to have, such as soap and shampoo and toothpaste and toilet paper and laundry detergent, things of that nature, over being able to sit here and watch Glee or whatever the show is they're talking about on here. I'm going to wash my clothes and wash my body, wash my hair, brush my teeth. And I'm not going to sit here dirty just to be able to have the price of cable, Or sit here with a hungry, growling belly. And as high as food is today, I don't even know if dumping cable, if the price of the money you would save from dumping your cable would really even buy you that much food, really. And it said if you want to control the people, if you want to get control of the people, what is the one thing that you do to them that will control them more than anything else? You cut off their food source. They're going to turn on each other, and that's what's happening here, people. People are turning on each other because there are going to be crowds of people that are going to run and rush to these grocery stores to buy up what they can, And if they've got the money in their pocket right now, they're going to run out and buy it right now while they can afford it before the prices get even higher. And other people are in the store trying to do the same thing, and the people are going to start turning. And I'm telling you, I was talking to this guy the other day, and he said, you hear all these stories about women talking about being afraid to go out into the markets and places by themselves because of men stalking them and lurking and following them around, these traffickers. He said now people are going to be feeling the same exact way when they come out of the grocery store with their food already paid for. They're going to be worrying, who's going to be parked next to me watching me come out with a bag of eggs or a bag of whatever, and they're going to try to rob me for my food. You know? And you think about that, and that's very possible. People are going to be breaking into people's homes not to steal money or drugs or whatever they might come upon, but they're going to be breaking in to see what they've got in their refrigerators. Because if you go into the grocery store like I did this morning, there was no milk in the grocery store. There was the bread. I bought a loaf of bread. It was already stale when I got it home. That's just, I don't know. I hate to be such a Debbie Downer and have everybody like, oh, I was in a good mood till she come along. I'm not trying to put anybody in a bad mood. I'm just trying to talk about how I feel and wonder if anybody else out there is thinking or feeling this way. And just like me and my friend were talking the other day, the one when the COVID started and all the lockdowns and stuff started, and people were we were seeing all this stuff on the news about all this stuff going on, these riots and things going on in the cities. We were glad to be up in these hollers. We were glad to be sitting up here in these hollers with our neighbors that we've grown up with and known all of our lives. And we weren't out on these streets. We didn't have to worry about walking down these streets at night or to walk from our car to a parking garage or whatever, because we didn't have to worry about being a part of that. And another thing that we were talking about that is good about living in the country in a rural area is that we can grow our own food, and people in the cities can too. There are these things, co-ops and stuff, where people put their money together and they pay for little plots and stuff to put out a little bit of food, or they go in together and do like a communal garden or whatever. And you can grow food in buckets and baskets, and you can grow these raised plant beds and stuff. You can look all this stuff up on YouTube and learn how to do all this stuff. You can grow tomatoes in a hanging basket just like you would any other vine and have tomatoes, you know. Cucumbers grow on vines. I'm sure you could probably grow them as well in buckets or like, hanging baskets. You just have to kind of watch for the birds and stuff to peck at them and eat at them, and squirrels and other stuff like that. But I guess if we have to say, to look back at our ancestry and our great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents growing up and these hills and hollers and this property and stuff, and people say, those people never leave and they all just cling to each other and they all just stay together. That's what we grew up learning, And a lot of people do move away, and they move off to the cities and they move off to the other towns and states and don't look back. But they always, what's the one thing they always talk about? And I can say this from experience with a certain family member of my own who lives in a larger town and a larger city and a bigger environment and much more restaurants and stores and more things to do. But what's the one thing that they always talk about? Mama and Papa. When I was a little boy, Mama and Papa, and when I was a little boy and they had a garden, You know, they taught me how to do this, and my papa would bring in a bucket of coal to you know, where he would chop some firewood to build a fire. They talk about that stuff because it's what they grew up seeing, and people that didn't grow up that way go, Lord mercy, I can't believe people put coal in the coal bucket and put it in their fireplace. But we do. We like coal and we like wood in the wood stove, and it keeps you warm. And your power bill's not as high. But I think your power bill's going to be high regardless. If you never turned your power on, I think your power bill would be high. Just because they can get by with charging you whatever the heck they want. But there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that way of life. And when times are hard, people like us remember Mama and Papa telling us how to do these things. We remember our grandparents, great-grandparents telling us how to do these things and grow these things and can and put this stuff up and sew our own quilts and hem our own clothes and, you know. So maybe it's not such a horrible way of life to live out in the rural country and to hunt our own deer and catch our own fish. And maybe Hank Williams Jr. was right. You know, maybe we can survive. But even those who know how to do these things are finding it tough. But we've got to, we're not, like I was saying before, I talked for an hour and 45 minutes. We're going to focus more on tomatoes and green beans and cucumbers. My brother-in-law grew pumpkins, and he had some really big, nice pumpkins, and I told him, I said, you're crazy for not selling those. Seriously, you could take 10 or 12 real nice pumpkins out and set them beside the road a week or so before Halloween, and you could make you some money. And I told him, I said, you need to grow your pumpkins this year and let people know you've got them and let people know that you want to sell them. Because there are some people who will go out of their way to buy from a small independent business or a small independent just a person before they will take and give their money to a big box store like Walmart. You know? People, I didn't mean to talk this long. I just didn't have nothing else to do, which I should be cleaning and getting ready to cook supper and 100 other things I could have been doing, but I didn't want to do anything else but just sit here and talk to you all today. And I appreciate y'all for listening. I know most of you probably done quit by now. You're probably like, Lord have mercy, she ain't never going to hush. But I'm going to hush right now. Thanks for watching.